A fabulous crowd of around 3,000 saw a fiery opening and referee Benson had his hands full. After a warning he acted, with Tony Price spending 5 in the bin. At the other end, Darryl Warden had a rest for 5 and Neil Baker's shot was a shocker, spelling a disastrous day for the 5/8. Craig Dodd made a break, but referee Benson pinged West captain coach Mal Graham for holding a player back and he headed to the dressing room. And then Waratah sprang into attack.
They decide to run it. Gives it out to Fairhurst. Fairhurst on to Hanlon now. Hanlon, the little chip kick in behind the defence. Schemer trying to get back. Higgins is there. Can Higgins get the bounce? Higgins travels. A super try to Waratah.
Within 3 minutes and the Cheetahs forward started to dominate and it was the little master who conjured a try out of nothing.
Russell now. Hanlon out to Higgins. Higgins trying to set up play. Gets around one. He's going to score again. The captain coach is in.
Ahead 10-0 at the break and with thoughts firmly entrenched about a previous match that they had in their keeping, they open Wests up. But the Rosellas hit back through Jason Schemer.
Dodd goes to blind side. Baker. Baker out to Murray. Murray's close. Can he get the ball out to Schemer? Schemer's close and he's over. And Western Suburbs are in for their first try of the afternoon.
Lorne McDougall was dispatched to the bin for 10 and shortly after Neil Baker joined him, reducing West to 11 men. But they soaked up the pressure well. With time running out, Scott Budden put the issue beyond doubt.
Big long cut-out pass to Ross Hanlon. He handles brilliantly, gets the ball back to Budden, and he's going to cross, he's in, and that's the ball game. Waratah through to the grand final.
And the irony of the day for Neil Baker, being sent off by Benson for an alleged headbutt on a Waratah player with only minutes remaining. But West weren't quite finished and scored again.
Gets around Allardyce, gives the ball back into Morrison. Can he handle? Handles brilliantly, and he gets it down, and that'll be a fair try to Western Suburbs.
But the siren sounded a Waratah win, and a tribute to long-time Tars stalwart Jack Robinson was paid by the gallant Cheetahs, who now have the chance to grab the title of champions.
Choosing what hat to wear is becoming a head-scratching experience for police at Belmont, chosen to trial a new style police cap aimed at giving them a more relaxed and approachable appearance. The caps are made in Lismore for around $6.50 each, about $20 cheaper than the current male headwear and $40 cheaper than those hats worn by women. But with 3 years' supply of the Antron-style hats still in stock, the state government is taking some convincing. Therefore, 5 stations have been chosen to trial the new caps for cops. Although this is only day 1 of a 3-month stint, reactions have been varied.
Very mixed, fairly comical. Some police like it, some think it's a bit of a joke. But I think within a month, 3-month trial period, but within the month I think they'll accept it. I think the public will accept it.
Whatever the case, there's no denying the caps are durable and comfortable. And as they say, if the cap fits, you might as well wear it.
While Neil Baker was the centre of attention at last night's Judiciary hearing, he may not be the only one affected by its outcome. Baker was sent from the field and charged with attacking the head of an opponent and swearing at the referee after this incident during Sunday's fiery preliminary final between Wests and Waratah. Earlier, 5 players, including Baker, were sent to the sin bin, and referee Mick Benson received a mixed reception as he left the field. Last night he gave evidence to the Judiciary concerning Baker's dismissal. He told the panel he had seen Baker twice headbutt an opponent, saying, "I had a clear view of the incident. I was no more than 3 or 4 metres away and saw both attempts." He also alleged Baker swore at him, saying, "He looked directly at me. We were looking straight at each other." Baker pleaded not guilty, pointing out that the referee was not able to correctly identify the other players involved in the incident. He told the panel of his sour relationship with Mr Benson, saying, "Playing under Mick, I've been sin-binned on 8 occasions. I can't be that bad. I played professionally in Sydney for 10 years without being sent off or sin-binned. He's had me frustrated all year, this bloke." The panel found Baker guilty of both offences, but gave him only a $50 fine.
I'm very disappointed, actually. I really feel that I'm innocent, and that's the way I'm going to stick by. I'm sticking by the word that I said, and I really feel that I'm innocent.
Have you been victimised?
I don't know as far as saying that, but I just feel, as I said, as far as I'm concerned, I'm innocent.
The Referees Association placed Mr Benson under a media ban. He was unable to comment on the outcome of the hearing or his chances of controlling the grand final. The appointment has been made, but won't be released until just before game time, 5.5 days later than usual.
National property consultants McGee's have just opened office in Newcastle, a reflection of confidence in the region's real estate market. The group specialises in industrial and retail property and says demand for local real estate in that market is coming from outside the region, and for good reason.
Not only do we have quality property up here, but it's in a price range where there's more people in the market that can't be satisfied in the capital cities. We have property in the price range of $750,000 through to $2 million that have quality tenants providing a higher yield than you'll normally find in the Sydney region.
In most investment decisions, it comes down to the bottom line, and return on property here is consistently higher than in Sydney. McGee's expects to write $20 million of business in its first year in the region.
Well, good retail properties in Newcastle sell in a yield range of 11 to 12%, industrial property 12 to 13%, and that's generally 1 to 2% higher than you would expect to achieve in the Sydney market.
Agreement on the fundraising program is just over the horizon. Both the Newcastle and Port Stephens councils have been asked to contribute $100,000 each, along with another $100,000 to be raised by public subscription to enable the steamer to operate debt-free. Member for Shortland Peter Morris laid the first keel bolt on the vessel. Now he's busy trying to tie the knot that will keep it off the rocks.
Effectively, we're asking the two councils to underwrite the raising of $100,000 from the public, and that process being subject to the approval of the official manager Ian Campbell of Ernst & Young, and who have both been supportive and cooperative.
There'll be no more government funding for the vessel, but Mr Morris is confident that this final rescue effort would be enough to keep the project running under its own steam.
We believe on the limited basis it's been operating that it can effectively pay its own way. So we're saying to the councils, help us to the order of $100,000 each, a one-off, no strings attached, no contingent liability contribution. The vessel itself, if debt-free, can pay for itself under operation.
The William IV has just undergone a full overhaul and is commencing a series of lunch in the mangroves cruises of the Hunter River. If the funding plan is successful, it's hoped the steamship could take advantage of Port Stephens' busy summer tourist season with cruises around Nelson Bay. Both councils will decide on their roles in the project within weeks. Andrew Lobb for NBN News.
Most people think comics are for kids, but at 37, Dieter Lederwasch has long ago outgrown childish indulgences. To the Newcastle collector, comics aren't just light entertainment, they're legitimate works of art.
A lot of the comic conferences in America now have the artists giving lectures, travelling around America, displaying their artworks. There are quite a few museums in America solely devoted to comic strip art.
His collection is lovingly preserved, and with good reason. This one Phantom comic has an estimated value of more than $1,000. Not that the dedicated collector would ever dream of parting with such a rare gem for mere money.
That's the last thing I consider. The unfortunate thing is that it makes it difficult to get a complete collection because of the value that people put on it in monetary terms. I prefer to have them worth nothing at all and at least complete the collections and have them preserved.
So who knows, in another 50 years perhaps those Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles will be considered art as well. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
Until now, the magnitude of the spill from National Textiles at Rutherford has been unknown, but a report to the Hunter Water Board today revealed that up to 25,000 litres of caustic soda was accidentally discharged into the sewerage system last month. It was many hours before workmen at the Wentworth Swamps Waste Treatment Plant realised something was drastically wrong. The pH level in the water had risen from 8.5 to almost 12, killing all bacteria vital to the plant's operation. For the first time in Australia, a wastewater treatment plant was dead. To neutralise the caustic soda, acid was added to the storage pools and bacteria brought in by the truckload. Within 4 days, the treatment plant was operating, but even now it can't handle badly polluted wastewater. Workmen estimate it will take more than 2 years to cultivate the new bacteria to cope with wastewater with a high pH level. Although the caustic soda was prevented from leaving the treatment plant, it's believed an unknown amount may have escaped into the river from the mill. National Textiles claims the spill was caused by human error, a valve accidentally left open. When the spill was noticed, though, National Textiles say they immediately notified the Water Board. But according to the board, it was its employees at the treatment plant who discovered the spill more than 12 hours later. If the Hunter District Water Board does decide to take legal action, National Textiles is facing a fine of up to $20,000. As well, the board is looking at recouping its operating costs in dealing with the spill, a total payout of up to $50,000.
Who could forget these scenes in February? A torrential downpour transforms low-lying areas of Katara and Lambton into a wash of water. Stormwater drains filled to capacity become a raging torrent. Within minutes, houses and gardens are flooded. Dazed residents are left to complain the lack of action from councils and the Water Board. Then in May, king tides and heavy rain combined to bring rising waters to Tyers Hill and Wickham. The Water Board, for the first time in years, experiments with floodgates to ease the problem. It's incidents such as these which have highlighted the stormwater nightmare in the Lower Hunter. Now the Water Board has announced a $50 million capital works program to improve flood mitigation, the safety of drains and reduce siltation.
The organisation has, over those years, started to say, well, sewage is more important, water is more important. Now we recognise that drainage is just as important and we're committing ourselves to doing something about it.
The Water Board's plan acknowledges that straight concrete channels such as these are perhaps a stormwater mistake of the past. And in future, they're proposing large holding ponds in major catchment areas. A perfect example of what the Water Board is planning can be found at the new Lakelands development. This man-made lake is actually a stormwater abatement pond, which holds back the first rush of water, which in turn reduces the risk of flooding and siltation.
And we now think that there's a smarter way of doing it, and that is trying to hold water back, trying to design things that reflect more a natural environment as opposed to the artificial environment we created.
The Water Board has decided to withdraw its offer of handing over stormwater responsibility to local councils. It wants future development applications to include a provision for stormwater management. The Water Board will now open negotiations with councils to work out a formula for sharing the capital costs. If it carries the full $50 million cost, the average stormwater charge per property could increase from about $40 to $74 per year. John Church, NBN News. Break, enter and steal offences in Hamilton and adjoining suburbs had risen to an alarming average of 3 a day over several months when police created a task force to deal with the problem. In the fortnight since they started, police have recovered a range of stolen goods and charged 9 people with 23 offences. Senior Constable Michael Gorman says there is a drop in break-in reports, but he believes that may be because residents aren't telling police they've been robbed. He says suspects questioned about robberies have often taken police to addresses where the residents haven't reported the crime, and he believes the extent of unreported robberies could be high.
It's hard to say. One incident where a gentleman was charged with 9 offences of break and enter, and of those 9, 4 were not reported. So I would like to think that it wasn't as high as 50%, but unfortunately with people not telling us, it's very difficult to say.
Police say robbery reports help them build up patterns of crime which may be enough to make an arrest. But the big question is, why aren't the residents telling the police?
Does it also make you wonder if they've lost confidence in your ability to solve the crime? Are they simply saying, well, I don't expect to see the goods again, it's just too much bother to report it?
I think that is part of it, but I think there's also the part that people see it as possibly wasting police time. They feel they won't get their property back if it's cash or something that's easily disposable. It's much more difficult to try and recover, and they see it as wasting our time, that they don't have any expectation of getting the goods back.
Even when police recover stolen goods, they're often unable to return them because householders can't prove they're the owners. Police suggest they keep a record of serial numbers on all property or engrave their own ID numbers.
Police and ambulance rescue services rushed to Redhead when the alarm was raised by other teenagers who'd seen the boy disappear out of sight over the jagged cliff that forms Redhead Bluff. Rescue officers arriving at the scene at first had trouble locating the teenager. Parts of the cliff base are blanketed in thick lantana. As an ambulance officer prepared to abseil over the cliff, the new Westpac rescue chopper was manoeuvred into position. A difficult piece of flying because of the strong wind. With the helicopter hovering over the edge of the cliff, paramedic David Blackburn was attached to the winch line and then lowered to the base of the cliff as onlookers watched and prayed. Tragically, a short time later, word was passed to waiting ambulance officers that the teenager from Redhead had died in the fall.
The Cubs came from as far away as Foster, Broken Bay and Aberdeen, and, as their motto says, they were prepared for anything. The race was on to have the most fun, despite those inevitable setbacks. They steamed through a slalom course in their billy carts and fine-tuned their skills at the Singleton Army base on an assortment of specially designed assault gear. Some proved fearless, others admitted to a little trepidation. But it was all old-fashioned bush fun with its ups and its downs. Less strenuous was the screen printing of badges, mural painting, craft work and the giant jigsaw of the Australian flag. The main aim of the annual event was to foster unity among the Cubs.
We want to give the boys an opportunity to experience the world brotherhood, and this isn't a bad start to see the people who live next door and the people who live up in the country and the people who live in their neighbourhood groups. So we try to bring them all together. A lot of effort, but well worthwhile.
Deanna Dryberg is 21. Until 18 months ago, joining a religious order was a real option. She is still very active in the church, but has, for the moment, decided against becoming a nun. Deanna's decision illustrates a growing trend. Fewer girls are becoming nuns and convents are getting smaller. In the last 10 years, the number of Sisters of Mercy in the Hunter dropped from 160 to 115. At the convent of Our Lady of Mercy in Singleton, 3 nuns left last year, and it's been 10 years since anyone joined the sisterhood and stayed.
I think modern life doesn't lend itself to long-term commitment, and that's what our life, up till now anyway, has been about. I think there are moves for it to change, for that to change, and for people to be able to come for a short time.
While the numbers of Sisters of Mercy are declining, Sister Margaret believes the order will survive.
I think the world needs people who are prepared to dedicate themselves to helping others, to being with others in their need. And I think there will always be people who want to do that and who want to do it for out of their Christian background.
Newcastle City Council crews moved into the third and last stage on the beachfront between Hereford and Pembroke Streets just last week. It's envisioned that by Christmas, what was once just sand and bitto bush will be curbed and gutted parkland. Already in place is a rock seawall, completed last June at a cost of $2.8 million. Its purpose to halt the erosion that had almost eaten away the beach completely. Once completed, the reserve will not only be a bonus to the beach's preservation, but also its cosmetic appearance. Already it's predicted adjacent homes will soar in value, with residents having far more appealing views and full-time access to the beach. Recent reports suggest Swansea Channel is slowly changing its natural course, edged on by increased siltation flowing into the channel from nearby developments. Residents believe some of that silt is coming from the Gordon Pacific housing estate at Caves Beach. Although an impressive siltation trap has been built, residents claim it's ineffective.
Silt traps are supposed to collect silt. This one doesn't collect silt, and indeed it allows large particles in aggregates, stones, sand, to get past it, and eventually it's finding its way into Blackned's Bay.
But according to Mayor Ivan Welsh, the council-maintained trap is doing the job it was built for. He admits silt often flows freely through the trap, but until the development is complete and trees established, even the most advanced siltation trap will not stop particles from entering Blackned's Bay and eventually Swansea Channel.
It is intended that it will stop silt, and there are other silt arresters on the development site, but that particular one, the main one, is there for the future when the development's completed and the area's been grassed and seeded and whatever. It will stop all the silt off there, yeah.
What compounds this particular problem, though, is that debris from roadwork on the Swansea S-Bend also flows into the bay, causing a problem at the entrance. Residents say council is ignoring its responsibility.
I think the council has to implement the total catchment management concept, which is being promoted at present. It's a concept whereby you go out into the catchment area of Lake Macquarie and you rectify the problems up in the catchment, not on the foreshores of Lake Macquarie.